Hi everyone, this is Mohammad Hamid Khan, and today I'm back with another interesting podcast on semantic SEO, where I'm having Mark, and today we're gonna cover some important and interesting concepts on semantic SEO. So basically, I've been connected with Mark on LinkedIn, and it's been some time, and I've been following him, and I've been seeing him creating some good content on semantic SEO and Topical Authority. So I thought we would have some chat and understand what processes Mark is following, how he's building Topical Authority for his website, what the stuff he is doing, and how he's approaching in nutshell how he's approaching semantic SEO. So thank you, Mark, for joining this podcast, and over to you. Could you introduce yourself, what you do, experience you have, and over to you now.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Muhammad. It's a pleasure to hop on a call with you. And to give a quick introduction about myself, my name is Marc Muller. I'm originally from Germany, and I run an SEO agency now in Perth, Western Australia, where I've been for the last 12 years. I've been in the SEO space for about 8 years. And roughly 2 years ago, I really discovered the concept of topical authority. And the way I discovered it was a strange approach. Maybe actually it was 3-4 years ago, where I used a search operator and I tried to find what's the correlation between people having a lot of pages on a topic and their rankings. And out of all the ranking factors that I analyzed, I noticed that this was actually the strongest one. Depending on how many pages you have on a certain topic on your website, the better you rank. That's what I found at the time. And that's what got me started. Okay, nobody was talking about that topic like 3-4 years ago. Got me thinking about how we can roll out that concept for our own websites to create bigger websites that cover topics in a more holistic way.
Amazing, amazing. All right. So let's move to the questions part. Basically, I'm also, as you guys seen me, I'm also into semantic SEO, and I've been helping many clients and my own portfolio websites building topical authority states. So I thought it would be a very interesting conversation and loads of information, lot of good stuff you will find here. So I've prepared some good questions basically, and I will ask Mark basically about the question, and he will share the experience. So first is basically, can you briefly describe your experience with semantic SEO, and basically in nutshell, what do you think semantic SEO really is?
Absolutely, yeah. Perhaps for the audience members who are slightly new to the concept of semantic SEO, first of all, what really is semantic SEO? I would frame it in that way that we can look at the period of before and after semantic SEO. Before, we would just have keywords, and we would say, put the keyword into the title tag, and then make sure you're mentioning the keyword in the correct density. Maybe we also think about LSI keywords. Those are really just variations. So other words that somebody would mention in a conversation about that topic. But we were not thinking about how all of the keywords that we have on our website could relate to each other. And that is what really semantic SEO is, finding out the relation of all the words to each other, which plays into how Google really works under its core with Google's knowledge graph, which is basically a map of all of the different entities. So an entity could be a person like Michael Jordan, and how that relates to other entities. That could be Michael Jordan's father or mother, and there's a relationship between them. And then also we have the values and the attributes of entities. So the attribute would be Michael Jordan's age, for example, and the value is 50 years old, 60 years old, and so on. And then semantic SEO says, how about we map out all of the important entities, all of the important attributes, and then configure our website in a way that Google will have a much easier time understanding it. And also in a way, I will add, that is interesting to users. So it's not just about what we think, it's also what our users are interested in, and then configuring the website accordingly to that.
Nice. So it's basically shifting the mindset from just the words-based or the phrase-based approach, like keywords, towards meanings and more semantically and logically connected networks to help Google understand your website in a more quicker and at the same time providing more organized content network and solving the challenge of Google, which is cost, basically. So that's really interesting thing, by the way, and it's quite challenge as well when you are very new to any knowledge domain or any industry, like, and you have to beat like big competitors like Healthline, like for example, big media websites. So it's a really challenge, and semantic SEO basically gives you the edge, basically, if you do some that kind of stuff already on your website, and that's going to help really. So one more basically concept mostly people ask, like they know about semantic SEO, like the definition, they know the basic terminologies, how it's working and what principles it's actually following mainly. Like, does it really work? I mean, for any kind of website, or is it work for some specific type of website like e-commerce or some specific type of niches? I mean, is there any case studies we can look into that, or just how do you think, like, is it like work or worth try or not?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, of course, in SEO, the correct answer is always, it depends. And therefore, I would say a lot of people would have found that they've heard about the concept of topical authority, semantic SEO. They tried something, but for them, it didn't work. So I would say for probably 60, 70, 80% of people, it did not work. And we can go into the reasons why. But basically, pulling off a correct semantic SEO, it is quite complicated because we're talking about producing a lot of high quality content. And there are so many things that can go wrong in creating articles, from the keyword selection to the search intent, to the depth of how you're writing the article, to the facts, to the images. There's so many components where we can make mistakes. So I would say, yes, if we do a topical authority and semantic SEO correctly, there's a high chance that it will work out very well, because we're creating the correct Google user signals where users like our content, they stay on our page, they read through more articles and so on. However, for anybody who has not had success with it yet, I would say give it some time, follow Muhammad and myself and a few other people in the industry to learn more about it, because absolutely it can work. And it's not just for one website. Let's say it works only for e-commerce or only for affiliate. But yeah, I will save the last for later, where we can later chat about the main reasons why semantic SEO fails and how people can improve on that.
Yeah, really nice take, by the way. So I would definitely add one more thing here. Actually, every niche like has its kind of own set of competition or saturation, like that is set by the competitors or the information user be searching on, the interest of the user and the behaviors of users, which is ultimately changing, and that's why the specific niche or industry is being saturated accordingly. So, like for some niches, people say that we just like ranking without even implementing semantic SEO, or without even publishing a lot of content. They just like publish a couple of pages, they do a lot of backlinks, and they rank. So it maybe, so for some niches you might get some ranking and results ultimately, like very local SEO sites. I mean, some plumbing niche you can say, but semantic SEO is basically always good to have. I mean, a smart work to, and definitely it requires more budget and a lot of training, lot of time. So they actually minimize that effort, and they just think that if they would create some backlinks, or they just do some technical optimization, and unfortunately, if your website's content is not helpful or not valuable, if you do the every other stuff right, like backlinks, technical optimization, you will not, you will, if you maybe probably rank in the start, but once Google notice after core algorithm update, your site got hit, will get hit. So that's the, I think, main thing. So it's the, I guess, right time to shift towards semantic SEO and to think about machines perspective as well, and as well creating the helpful content, which is the whole EEAT model. And again, that's another chapter. So we'll stick to the semantic SEO for now. Okay, Marc, what do you think are the top components or ingredients of semantic SEO, and like which are very necessary for someone like doing semantic SEO must needs to focus on, or primarily important ingredients of semantic SEO?
So the most important thing is to start with a deep level research into the client's business that you're working on, because oftentimes we need to learn about a completely new thing that we've never heard about. We didn't study it in school. We didn't kind of use it in our professional life. It could be a completely new industry that you're learning about. And you need to understand both the business's services as well as the customers of the business, and then make that connection from, okay, these are the core business services or products. This is what the customers are thinking and the problems that the customers have. And then you make that connection to the keywords, because this is number one, step two, and then step three. You can connect all of these three components. And that deep level research is very important. And I would actually love to hear your process, because I think it is so critical, starting the campaign out in the right way, how you approach it. When you take on a new project and you give a completely topic that you never heard about, how do you approach that for yourself and maybe later for your copywriters as well?
So basically a topic that is, or niche basically that is new. First, I mean, in simple words, we get all the research papers ready, like the journal, the top research paper that we published around those niches, around that topic. So first of all, that's how we collect information. Like, first of all, we train our teams, especially the writers who are gonna write content. We train them, and we also download or share the courses with them, the necessary courses and the important guides. For example, like the Wikipedia pages, I mean, they are helpful somehow. I mean, if you read them, the core or the A to Z approach, you're gonna you get the information, right? So basically, first of all, we train teams on multiple aspects. Like, number one is product knowledge. First of all, they need to know what we are offering. So basically, they can connect every time whenever they're like, I mean, approaching content, like connecting the problem with the solution business is offering. So this is the main thing we offer. We train them later on. But first, product knowledge is important. And then the other things like writing rules, the semantic SEO principles, like the linguistics rule. Most of our writing rules are based on linguistics, and some more practices like user engagement and everything, the copywriting, the story writing stuff as well. So I guess that's how we are approaching. And I've like more than 20-30 plus boards on Miro, created mind maps for writers for my personal concept understanding, like how to start a specific process from start to finish, and how to achieve a specific outcome, or how to solve a particular problem. So that's what I think. And not lastly, I mean, the product knowledge or the new niche, I mean, you couldn't like get all the information like just a week. You have to study regularly. I mean, you have to study that, you have to see the approach of top competitors even. Basically, that's what your competition is. You have to see them. And that's what I think it totally based on like the person who's working on, and the type of industry, and again, regularly reading the information and applying and reverse engineering. So that's what I think.
That's a great answer. Thanks so much, Mohammed. And I'm keen to hear your thoughts also on the process of whether it is you in the business who will spend, maybe you spend 5 hours understanding the client's products and industry and the competitors, or are you able to hand that process directly to your writer and say, okay, this is the new client, here is our semantic kind of rules that you need to follow, and now you can go and do 5 hours of research or 10 hours of research on the client. Is that mainly you or any other team members involved doing this type of research for you?
Mainly I involved in that, and I have some assistants working with me. They also do the research stuff, but mainly I involved in this type of research. So
that makes sense.
I mean, it's about like source context. We say, like, the methodology that I've learned from Chorus, he named this concept as source context. I mean, we first understand the primary focus of the business, the brand identity, how brand monetize its audience. And then from that, we connect everything further, like the central entity we're going to cover in our topical map. And then what are the relevant attributes? Like, not every attribute of an entity could be relevant to your source context. For example, if you're selling bike paint, and you have to cover bike as an entity and create a topical map around bike center as an center entity, you won't cover like bike engine in the start. You won't cover like bike tires, for example. You're gonna maybe cover bike designs, or maybe bike paint material. I mean, something like that. Connect with your source context first if you want more sales, or if you like need to get some historical data or traffic, or want to classify yourself with the top authoritative sources, or a big authority on buying, for example, then you have to cover the prominent attributes, the important definitions of the entity first as well. So that's how I approach, and it's working fine so far.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I also find it similar in my business that teaching this kind of process is definitely challenging. That's why I think both of us, we're the main people to create the topical maps for clients and do the initial research to understand everything about the client's business. So that's interesting to hear, and maybe something to think about in the future, how this process can be more easily accessible for new people in the business as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice. So, I mean, like we discussed right now, like it's the semantic SEO is basically not just focusing on the queries or the keywords. It's about covering the whole angle or perspective or behavior around a specific problem of multiple users. The clustering, like Google machine cluster users, right? Plus it clusters three things mainly, like documents, users, and queries. So it connects the queries with the documents, then match documents with the users. So this is how in nutshell it's working. But we have seen that it differs, not just like you focus on keywords, you focus on the whole angle or the topic in nutshell. But what are the other things you see that, I mean, how it differs from the traditional SEO that we, or not we, most of the people, I've been also like, was also in traditional SEO, and that was working back in the past, like creating like thousands of blog comments in a single day, building directory backlinks. I mean, still it's maybe working for some niches, but more 90% or 99% of the things are not, I mean, that kind of effective, or maybe not for the long term. So how do you think, or how do you believe, based on your experience, like what are the other ingredients or the components? I mean, how it differs in nutshell with from traditional SEO, semantic SEO?
I think the difference between the traditional SEO is that semantic SEO requires more discipline, and that is in many ways. On the one hand, it is about actually the discipline of understanding that we have a limited amount of keywords that we should cover from the start. That is, as you mentioned, the core entities that are directly related to our brand. And then building it like an onion. I like to think about it of the different layers. In the middle of the onion, you have the most important things. And then outside of that, you're building the other layers of the onion. And
Nice.
Having that discipline to start actually at the middle and not go, okay, let's build 1,000 articles, because we all know these days many people use the AI content. They feel the best way to build a topical map is to immediately publish 1,000 articles and cover everything. Whereas semantic SEO teaches us start slowly, start at the beginning, start with a very clear understanding of your own industry, your own products, and your customers, and then build outwards from there. And this type of discipline also means that we're working most of the time with a folder structure, which I really like, which means that we plan exactly, okay, what should this folder or URL be about inside of our content network? And we do that for every single URL, which then also means we won't have issues like duplicate content, because we already planned 100, 200 articles in a Google Sheet before we start writing. Whereas when we look at the traditional SEO, they constantly have duplicate content issues, because at some point there was a different SEO person in the business. They written about that same topic, and now they have 3 or 4 articles about exactly the same topic. And it's a lot of mess to fix up later on. So this kind of discipline of planning clearly from the start, which direction we're going to go, at what speed we're going to go at, and also clearly knowing what each page should be about and what the goal is for each page. Now we can have a clear documentation as well, what success means. Because with traditional SEO, success is sometimes unclear, because you could have 100,000 visitors, 1 million visitors, but if you didn't get those visitors close to your source context to how the business actually makes money, those visitors could be meaningless, because you might not be making money from those visitors. And then in the next algorithm update, you might be penalized because Google realizes this content is much too far away from what the business really does. So therefore, they're going to send that traffic to another business who can actually monetize it and has a better business kind of relationship to that source context or the content.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you on this point. So basically, having a proper kind of business or a source context is important as well sometimes, and explicitly mentioning how you are like monetizing. For example, mentioning or having in simple words, having a good about us page, having a good contact us page, having all the necessary details like team members or the company's history, CEO's mission, vision, etc. So I think having a good brand as well is also will give you some boost. And what you mentioned, just from focusing on queries, or it's like semantic is more disciplined. I mean, so totally, I would agree. And it's like you can say some of the processes they will take 50x more time, like when we start doing them. For example, creating topical maps, briefs. So we could imagine from that point like how tough or how disciplined semantic SEO is, and definitely a lot of factors as well uh, that are in semantic SEO. So very perfect basically. Okay, so now I'm trying to move towards some practical part and make this discussion a bit practical, so users, or you can say our audience, could relate this with themselves and understand, or you can say apply the same process for their websites as well. Like, first of all, I've seen you have good experience with e-commerce. I mean, you have been client with you achieving their organic growth numbers, like in terms of SEO and paid ads, for example. So, I would ask a question later on, like, how do you actually build topical authority, or how someone can build topical authority for an e-commerce brand or for an e-commerce website? But before that, I would like to know how you, what do you think about topical authority? What actually topical authority is?
Absolutely. So to define the concept of topical authority, we can say that within a certain context of what our website is, we are seen as the #1 trusted website by Google. And the trust in this case, when we talk topical authority, only comes from text on our website. Normally, when we think about domain rating, domain authority, these types of things, these are based on backlinks. But now when we say topical authority, it's just based on the text that we have published on our website. And it relates to how well we cover a topic and all of the related parts and questions that people can have. And the reason why that's important is because Google can understand, as you mentioned, the search intent that people have. And then if we can answer all of the different search intents, because one keyword does not only have one search intent. If you type in beer, Google does not know exactly what the search intent is. You could want to purchase beer. You might want to research how much alcohol percentage beer has. You might want to know the origin country. So if you can cover everything on your website around beer, from the history to the alcohol percentage with clear tables and everything around it, then Google knows, okay, this website can be trusted for beer, because no matter what basically the user has in their mind, this website will be able to serve the user well based on the user metrics that were aggregated before. So like, how long did somebody stay on the page? Did they take a positive action at the end of it? Did they contact? Did they buy? Or did they go back to search result and find another website to get the information from? So based on all of these things, the topical authority is built. And
so in simple words, in simple words, can we say that if a website is getting most of the traffic in a specific topic, like a topic could be a coffee, a topic could be like protein powder, can we say that if a website getting most of the traffic, like 30% more than anyone else in that competition, getting more traffic, like 30% in protein powder topic, can we say that that website is topical authority just based on the traffic it's getting?
I would say no, because the traffic is a delayed factor, which Google rewards people with traffic based on what they did 6 months ago. So right now, there could be somebody who has a better website, better content network, and theoretically more topical authority than you, but Google hasn't processed all of the signals yet. So we can't just say because somebody has the highest traffic that they have the best or strongest topical authority, because there's always that delay and gap factor, which is why it's very important to keep monitoring what kind of topics your competitors are expanding on, and how far you are along with your content network where you should be, and keep expanding and keep building on it, because it's something that's never done. So you will always find new topics either to optimize So with the content network, you can either expand the network into new areas, or you can even sometimes decide, okay, I should not have gone there, I should not have made that step. You can take an article back. Or another option is to improve an existing article, to keep updating important articles based on what you're seeing in Search Console, based on shifting user intent. So yeah, there's just too many factors that play into it that we cannot say if a website has high traffic, that's a good thing, because it could also be just one keyword that gives the high traffic, but another website has a huge amount of other queries that they answer, but they don't have that high search volume. So I think it's more about the total network size and the network quality that makes a topical authority.
Yeah, definitely a really good coverage of that question basically. So it's like, for me, I would agree that it's about number one, about topical coverage, like how many topics you've been published. Instead of just focusing on high volume phrases or keywords, maybe you publish it like Wikipedia do not just focus on high volume. I mean, or like the authoritative sites. I mean, they cover everything because they do not have, their main focus is not to get traffic, but to help readers, to help the real problem of the user. So I think covering the topic, not just from one aspect of having volume of the keyword, but all throughout coverage from the first interaction of the user with Google, like the search journey of the user, and then connecting everything together in a semantic content network. For example, if someone is like looking for a coffee machine, he might be searching for maybe why use coffee machine, for example, the benefits, the other attributes, then maybe explore, and then ultimately he will buy. So it's a like long journey. Instead, you focus on, if you're just selling coffee machine, you may be just focusing on best coffee machine reviews. I mean, you focus on from the start of the journey, and you connect those queries within your content in the same way how users searching in the sequence. For example, you create the same sequence in the form of context and contextual bridges, like we normally say internal links, within your content network as well. So this is the topical coverage means, like what I think, and mostly people ignore that. If they think that if they cover the every aspect of a topic, they become topical authority automatically, but it's not like that. You need historical data to justify your coverage, like the quality of traffic you're getting, not just like you're getting maybe 1,000 visitors per day, more than anyone else, but are those visitors sticking? Are those visitors like engaging with your content? And definitely which Google measures, the mouse overs, the scroll percentage, or maybe pages per session, or maybe simply everything that happens after a person or user visits your page. So historical data, I guess, is a very important factor that justifies your topical coverage or the quality you have of the content you have published. So
yeah, that's a
what
great point. Absolutely. Fantastic. Thanks for covering in so much detail. You mentioned an interesting point that I want to go into further, which is that we also need to cover topics that don't have search volume. We cover them simply because they're important to our business. They're most likely somewhat close to our source context of what the business is doing. However, how would you deal with the situation where something doesn't have traffic, and the way that Google works, right, they try to match our page with some keywords. And now what can happen is that Google will match the page that we created to some wrong search queries. So in Search Console, we might be able to see, we try to have this intent A for the page, but Google didn't really find anything for intent A. So they match us with something different. In that case, what should we do with those kind of low search volume pages?
I mean, first of all, one thing I would like to clear with my audience, like if a page is on your website and not getting any kind of historical data, like traffic, clicks, etc., either that page I've covered in the wrong way, or the wrong intent is targeted, or the quality is not matching with the search intent of the user, the search behavior of the machines like Google. So it's like, you can say, it's like Google has to spend more cost, and it's actually diluting the page rank on my website. So basically, first of all, I would mostly try to prune or delete those kind of pages. But if, for example, if a query, for example, if I've targeted a page or published a page, but it's not getting the impression from the right queries that it should be getting. So what I do content configuration. I maybe reanalyze the search behaviors of the users. like the query processing. I analyze the canonical queries, like which queries could be merged together based on the Search Console data as well. I analyze like the topical borders, where the topicals, two topics are actually separating from each other. And most importantly, the change in semantic similarity and semantic relevance, like the semantic similarity coming from linguistics. I mean, the lexical relations, or say how two things are close to each other in terms of vectors or in terms of like their closeness. But relevance is how user is searching. Two things are not maybe close to each other, but might be relevant. So these kind of things I analyze throughout the page and restructure the whole content, maybe reorder the section, or maybe create a separate content through one section or multiple sections, and then definitely wait for some time to see what Google rethink about my site, and maybe do a big change on my website, so search engine crawler can come back to my site and see the change I wanted Google to see on my website. So the content configuration is the main answer here, and that's how I approach it.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. And I like that you also went into the topic of the fact that sometimes we just need to slightly change the perhaps the intent of the article and target a slightly different keyword to get a better outcome. I'm interested to hear how you manage these difficult situations where you have two keywords that are the same thing. If we take the example of business lawyer and corporate lawyer, in some ways they could be seen as the same thing. What is your process to kind of understand whether you should have two separate pages on these topics or whether you should combine both into one page?
Yeah, it's like a process I follow, and some tools also tell that which topics or queries needs to be clustered together based on the sub similarity, not the you can say the based on one is I mean one clustering approach is algometric, one is centroid. Centroid basically focus on the words, like 5 words. 5 queries have same word, which means they need to be grouped together. It's not, I mean, the sub similarity works in a different way. You probably know better. So what I do is basically if I have to do manually, I just search both phrases side by side on Google, the queries, and I'll see if 2 or 3 pages having same or through on both queries ranking. So I would try to merge those topics in one page. And also, I also use some, like you can say, some based on niche analysis. I will also use sometimes my own brain to understand maybe if this query has some more angles as well, or maybe someone searching for this query might have some another perspective as well, or search consideration might I might find another synonym query of that query and maybe create another page. So it's like totally about understanding the behavior of the users. I mean, the search queries again, and how Google is understanding those queries. Then you match your document with that behavior, how Google is perceiving through search queries of the users. Yeah, this is totally working for me right now, and I guess the best approach so far.
Absolutely, yeah. Our process is quite similar. I find this part of Google interesting because in many ways we are seeing that Google is very advanced. They have things like passage ranking, which can figure out a specific sentence on your web page, can answer a very specific question that a user has. But this kind of simple thing for Google to identify that actually one keyword is exactly the same as another, it might just be that they're using different words. That is still not as advanced as I think it could be, because really, as you said, it requires us often to create 2 pages on a topic that could really be covered in 1 page. It's just because users use different keywords and because Google is not as advanced that we as SEOs create 2 pages. Do you see anything maybe changing on that part in the future, that Google will even more go away from the kind of exact match query counts and more go into like a completely semantic model where they understand like the meaning of multiple synonyms a lot better?
I think I've seen the trend changing. Search engine is evolving, and now it's like more focused on meanings. I mean, in the past, it was like a simple neural match search engine, just match the exact phrase throughout the page, and calculates the relevancy, like based on the old models like TF, IDF, and other. Now it's like utilizing word to vec. I mean, I think one of the biggest model of Google utilizing to calculate the relevancy with the phrase or with the queries and match with the documents as well. So yeah, I mean, it's about basically when we search a query on Google, we search like long phrase based on our perception or culture or maybe or preference. But Google actually convert all those queries into their representative versions, like the broad version, and then process that broad version according and then do the information retrieval or connects the dots like the EAV model it has followed through its databases, like the knowledge bases it has created for organizing multiple set of knowledges like health, like finance. So basically, Google actually group or cluster queries together based on multiple things. Like if user A and user B, for example, have searched for the same query, which means those queries needs to be clustered together, and those two users need to be also clustered together. I mean, Google actually clusters queries, like the correlative queries that's being searched together as well, and the query path as well. If user A have followed the same query path, like searched query A, then B, then C, which means query B is the query path. This is the complete sequence, and another user has followed the same path, which means the both users three queries have something to do with each other. So Google clusters those queries together, and then Google and definitely Google do not like focus on just individual queries, and in order to save its cost, Google focus on the broad version, like representative version, and do the information retrieval stuff and pop up the results on the search results in a very quicker way. So I think that's how Google is achieving this challenge, and it's like very, and always Google do testing like predictive ranking, improve the quality threshold, update quality threshold based on for a certain type of websites against their certain type of query networks. Like this website needs to be ranked for this specific type of query network, and the cost or the crawl budget Google has, like you can say, specified to that website. It changes basically. So this is, I think, is the approach basically we could follow as well for our websites.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I really appreciate you going into detail there. One other thing that I'm facing inside of my own kind of semantic SEO, and I've seen also other people have problems with that, is the balance of introducing unique information and information that the user actually wants, because those can be two different things. Sometimes we can find some amazing unique fact in a research article paper, but maybe that was not what the user actually wanted inside of their search query. And I've done some research to understand more deeply what is the ranking potential of a single page, because when we have a single page, that cannot rank for an unlimited amount of queries. Google will only give this page, let's say, 10, 20 different keywords that it can rank for in the maximum. Yes, there will be some variations of that same keyword. People spell it differently, switching it around and so on. But really, when it comes to the intent, Google only ranks it for, let's say, 10 to 20 keywords. So how can we kind of make it that when Google only shows this page for so many different keywords, that we balance the information that we put into the article so that it's still relevant to the user? Because I noticed some people, they've included all the information they could find. Corey's got some case studies that got hit also by the Google update, which in my view were not helpful to the user at all. To give you an example, there was a list of 200 cities in Germany. So no user is going to read through like a list of 200 cities and find that's very helpful to me. Like that's not going to happen, right? So how can we balance that kind of helpfulness with the search intent of the user?
Okay, so first of all, if our definitely our objective is to get the traffic that user click on our website or page. So I mean, what I do or what rules we have created, we have like basically defined formats or basically different every content, every section in our content in our page have different set of different objectives. So basically we see that we actually liaison with each other, like this specific section needs to be covered in this format. So like first of all, you questioned that users searching for information, but the information is very like repetitive and everyone is telling the same thing, but how do you
Right.
make unique? And if you make unique, it's not maybe user searching for that unique information. So basically, we prioritize what user is looking for. We based on the consensus, if something is very obvious, we declare it in our content first. Like if we are writing a definition, we make the definition very simple, very concise, and very to the point. We do not like add a lot of unique information, because we have to classify ourselves with the top authoritative sources that have on that specific topic. For example, if we are, for example, writing on a drug addiction, and top authority sites like maybe I don't know the names, but they use the specific context or phrases to describe drug addiction, but we have to follow those as well. If we do not follow, we will go out of the consensus, and Google will think that Google will not trust us because we are providing unique information. Maybe Google puts or in some sort of test in the start. So we have to classify yourself with the consensus and give the main information in the very easy to understand language. And then the unique information, what I suggest my writers, and we do also, first we give the declaration, like very simple and to the point, the obvious thing, the fact. And then we give our own opinion, like based on our first-hand experience or original research, or you can say, or expertise, based on our expertise. Then we give the opinion. For example, if someone's searching for what are the packaging material for a box, for a packaging box, and material could be like plastic box, for example, metal, some other like cardboard. Okay, so like we have to give the exact answer, the true answer. Like it first of all, we define it like the box material includes plastic and aluminum or steel or can or like cardboard, etc. We give the declaration first. Then in the next sentence, probably we'll start like cardboard maybe is the best option or preferable choice. This is the unique information we are now giving it from our own opinion or expertise. So I think this is how you balance. First, you give the solve the main intent of the user through our macro context. Then you give the other minor details relating with your business, so users might convert.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So in some ways, I think Google has kind of led us on the wrong path, because as you mentioned, most of the time we still need to cover all of the things that the other competitors have covered, because behind a keyword, let's say if somebody types in beer or somebody types in depression or drug addiction, behind that keyword drug addiction, there's the query, which Google processes through their query expansion system. What is drug addiction? So if we do not cover the topic of what is drug addiction, and we come up with our completely unique article outline, then Google is going to rank us downwards, basically, because we didn't cover that part. And I think that's something important to understand that you already mentioned, but just to reiterate it for our users, listeners who are new to the content network creation, that we cannot just completely have our own unique approach. We need to layer it, as you mentioned, cover the important things that Google wants to rank us for, but then put in the information that is unique to our business to say, based on our experience, this is how you can treat drug addiction, for example. And we've seen, then put in the specific numbers, which could be coming from your business. We have a 98% success rate in treating drug addiction by doing XYZ at our clinic and then that location, done by Dr. XYZ. So you get all these different entities and data points connected now to your business. And this way, Google cannot downrank you in the core updates because it's directly related to your source context. If you're the drug addiction clinic, you're saying the people who have done the addiction treatment, you're mentioning the success rates, and everything is now connected to your business. And it's unique in that way, I would say, that you're bringing in your own information.
Yeah, very nicely explained. Basically, it's also about using first person pronouns. Like when you say, like you use words like we, us, I, it tells that you are giving information or speaking through with your experience. So that's a very nice approach, basically. So it helps, I guess, I believe.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so when it comes to topical authority, I think, or you might know that topical map is the number one or the most important component that actually defines how you're gonna publish the content network, which topics you need to focus on, what's the priority, what's the momentum, what's the filtration criteria, and what are the macro semantics level things, like which context you need to flow through multiple components like title, like description, like other contexts you publish on your website. So basically, in nutshell, how do you actually create or approach topical maps to build topical authority for any website?
Yeah, absolutely. I would bring it back to the onion analogy where we start at the core of what our business provides. So I first make sure that all of the products or services are covered. And if we talk about an e-commerce website, I think it would be wrong to start with blog articles, because if we think about it, the core of an e-commerce website is selling stuff, right? So our topical map also needs to start with selling stuff. And if we do topical SEO for a local business, it needs to start with locations and services in that location. So it's important to kind of relate all these fancy topical map topics back to what really the business does and bring it back to first principles thinking. And then once we have those core topics covered, then we can expand out from there and maybe cover other things about that location. Let's say if you have a plumbing company, to bring some local SEO into it. That plumbing company can then, once it's covered all the main services in that location, also create a moving guide. For example, if you're looking to move into that city, this is what we recommend. And if you need a plumber who can help you, check that before you move in, all of your things are working, your water heater is in a good condition, then give us a call. So you can still bring that source context into those kinds of articles as well. And that would be my approach and recommendation, to start at the center, your own business services or products, then slowly expand outwards from there. And I would also warn people against going at a too quick pace. I've had a lot of people contact me, can you create a topical map with 1,000 pages? And then I'm asking, how many writers do you have? And what's your plan? How are you going to publish that? What's the frequency you want to write at? Because you can create a big problem for yourself by creating a topical map of 1,000 pages. That takes a lot of work to clean up. If Google decides that your 1,000 pages are not good quality, now you need to rewrite 1,000 pages, tell Google that you've removed them or no index them. So yeah, those are my tips for people starting out with building the topical map.
Yeah, nice. So in topical map, we have basically topics, right? Or what other things you actually create in a topical map? Topics and the title description. Is there any other thing as well you basically research in your topical map?
Yeah, so I start by researching, as you mentioned, the most important part is the title, the main keyword opportunity that we can target. Sometimes I even put the CPC in there, the cost per click, because that can be important to understand whether it's actually a commercial term or not. If nobody's paying for it, then maybe we should deprioritize it, because it might not be part of that core center of our onion that we should start with. And then internal links is something that I actually don't do directly inside of my topical map. I configure those later on, basically because the internal links will evolve over time, because some of my clients, might be limited to 4 or 5 articles per month, right? So it doesn't make sense to build the internal links out for 200 pages already when we're really just publishing 3 or 4 per month. So that's done on a step-by-step basis. Image alt tags are something that you can include in your topical maps if you want to spend the extra time on it. And then I know some people include the heading tags also inside of the topic map. However, in my case, yeah, the H1 tags, even the H2 tags, I've seen before that they include that. However, I handle that by linking to a separate document. So you can just create another Google document and say, for this page, go to that document and see the total outline of that article. I find that a bit better than putting everything into one sheet. And now you also have something that you can give to your writers to say, okay, we're writing this part of our topical map. Here's the title tag, here's the keyword. And then inside of that article outline, it's also important, in my view, that the writer themselves writes down what the search intent is in their mind. And then if you have an editor, that editor can also say, okay, from my perspective, the search intent is this. And sometimes the writer and the editor can have a slight disagreement. And then they should talk about why they feel the search intent is different. And this way we can make sure that the articles actually have 2 humans thinking about that we're meeting the correct search intent. which is so important so that we don't need to rewrite a lot of articles later on down the road.
Yeah. Very, very nicely explained. Okay, so you mentioned that for an e-commerce site, I won't recommend that creating a blog, publishing blog first, or creating a content marketing topical map first. Like, what do you mean by this? You focus on category and product pages first, and do you apply the topical map approach on your category pages like that, or
Yeah,
like
that's
location
correct.
pages? Okay,
That's
okay, okay.
correct. Yeah, both. Oftentimes in e-commerce, a lot of e-commerce stores have physical locations as well. In fact, most of the big stores, you can also walk into their location. So in that case, the topical map would include service pages for their location and the products that they sell at that location. And if we think about it, it's a lot more natural for Google to process the important entities for an e-commerce website. Let's say somebody is selling chairs. You got all the different materials of chairs, the different colors of chairs, the different price ranges of chairs. You got indoor, outdoor. Processing that inside of your category pages and product pages makes a lot more sense because you can give the values. You could say this is a cheap chair, which is like the value of below $10, for example, versus having a blog article, cheap chairs, right? That's like further away from what you do as a business of selling chairs. It makes sense to have that on a category page, and then the person can buy the chair straight away, which matches their search intent when they typed in cheap chairs. So it just goes back of matching, the intent that the user has with what we can offer as a business. And I usually find for e-commerce, actually, product pages and category pages are more than enough. And with a big store, you could have like 1,000 product and category pages. So why do we really need to write that many more articles? When we can work on 1,000 pages that can actually create sales and at the same time also build our topical authority.
High converting pages. I mean, the conversion rate, I mean, insane when it compared with the topical maps, like on like content marketing, like the blogs, informational topics. The category pages and product pages are the gold mine when it comes to the traffic. So really loved your approach. Basically, you start with optimizing or like based on the semantic SEO principle and user practices, that where you first optimize your commercial pages. So like when it comes to content, how do you approach content? I mean, you templatize your product pages and templatize your category pages, something like that, and just change the values like the product name within the content, or you also do some like more configuration, like prioritize attributes for certain type of product, or maybe use synonyms in the content. Like how do you approach content? Do you publish content like at scale, or templatize everything at commercial pages specifically, or you create unique content for each product and for each category page?
Yeah, in our case, it is unique content for each product and each category page. I believe it is very difficult to do that at scale. You can do it with programmatic SEO, but I would not be comfortable that we can get the same quality that we can get if we do it manually. With the manual approach,
Definitely.
with the manual approach for each keyword, we can really understand, okay, if somebody types in bulk and they want, let's say, chairs, or they want, wholesale chairs, what do they really mean? And then also say, create extra content, which was not there before, to have a definition. Okay, what do bulk chairs mean? Okay, bulk starts from 100, and sometimes we can make our own kind of values, which is something that people don't really realize. They think everything is kind of set and given, and we need to find it from a competitor website. No, we can make up some things ourselves because we are the business owners. We could say in our business, if you want to buy bulk products, that starts from 100 and goes to 1,000, and the weight of that is 2 kilograms and so on. So we're serving Google these kind of values and attributes to the entities through our category pages. Let's say we have a wholesale chairs page. And those types of things are important to realize, that we can be in control of that and teach Google what does bulk chairs mean. So we become the authority in Google's eyes, because we're the only ones who's given a clear definition of that with the values that we've defined.
Amazing stuff. Amazing. All right. So like semantic content brief, mostly people are like asking me again. I mean, how do I approach semantic content briefs? Basically, topical map is a top level thing. I mean, you just have to research the topics, But yeah, it takes time, by the way. In the start, like I was actually, it took me actually 1.5 months to create my first topical map, and I will like created 4 to 5 topical maps, more than that. And I thought that, hey, I'm going wrong. I need to change the strategy. And again, I re-strategize and restart working on that. So I thought topical map is again one of the biggest challenges, and that is a very dynamic thing, changes based on your business model, changes based on your central entity and the type of district you're working on, your objective, your everything. So when it comes to micro semantics, like the content optimization, before writing, we used to create a content brief, right? So what's your approach with semantic content brief? I mean, the methodology or the process you follow, is there any specific guidelines or is there any specific step-by-step approach you would like to tell the audience?
Absolutely, yeah. So on a case-by-case basis, for me, it starts with the exploration of the specific search intent for that keyword, which includes things as looking at the people also ask answers inside of the Google search results. Then I also go into Google Images to find what the search intent is, which can later inform about the images we need to put in our own content, because Google is saying clearly themselves that the human effort put into articles is very important, which they put into their quality rater guidelines. And so if the human effort is important, then we need to put in human effort. I think that's where the first thing can go wrong for people doing this content brief is they think, oh, how can I do this at scale for 1,000 articles? How do I automate this process? But we really need to have that human effort in the loop in order to understand we get the source context correct and the user search intent correct. And my writer would be the one to actually research that part and then create the article outline based on that. And also trying to figure out where the content border is, meaning at what point are we putting too much content into this article so that Google will not actually rank it for this kind of keyword. And finding out where this type of border is a very important part of it, because that border will signal that this is actually should be a separate article that we should be writing for that keyword. And it's a manual approach that my copywriter would do. And then I will also have that same process be done by my editor. And they would then discuss with each other what the best kind of approach would be even before writing that article, so that everybody's on the same page on what is going to be done and what the user actually wants to get out of that. But apart from this kind of manual approach, there are some rules that you can follow. For example, making sure that your questions or your headings are formatted as questions. That's an important part of it. And then when you're giving the answer to a question, to give that answer in the same format as the question was. So if you're asking a question of what is semantic SEO, using the same format would be semantic SEO is, and then ... give the answer there. Those kinds of rules, they do exist, and that's a best practice to make sure that your article outlines and content briefs are created in that way. And apart from that, look, there's no one-size-fits-all formula, because some articles need 10 images, some articles need a comparison table. The only way how I could think you could optimize this is, let's say you're a website and you're always comparing different softwares. You're comparing a CRM software to another CRM software. Then you can have a templated process where you can say, okay, we always need a table. The table needs to always have these values. This way you can kind of automate it. But apart from this, where you're constantly writing essentially the same article again, it's very hard to fully automate, and you always need a human in the loop to really think through the process of what the user wants to get out of it.
Yeah, again, it's not like one size fits all. I mean, approach could fit for all scenarios. It changes. It's a very dynamic thing. But how do you like research information? I mean, not in terms of like article writing. Definitely, that's another debate. But like just formulating the brief, like the heading vectors, like like you also decide like for which heading, which format you need to go with. And how do you make your outline, in simple words, your brief unique with the top search competitors? Basically, not 100, you cannot make everything like 100% unique. Basically, you have to follow the consensus as well. I mean, what is fact? Basically, you need to follow that as well. So when it comes to researching information, you first have to like find the facts. Then you have to formulate how you could add your own expertise within the brief, and how you structure and organize and or change the order. Like what's the main formula behind that? Do you hop to other platforms as well, like Reddit or like other communities, or what basically approach you follow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is important to, in the very first step, also understand the total keyword potential that a page has, as I call it, which means looking at the competing pages and seeing what keywords they are ranking for. And based on that, we can know, okay, this is what Google wants to show these pages for. So we need to pay extra attention to this section in the article, because clearly if Google wants to rank our page for this, we need to make sure this is extra high quality, and then beat the competing articles on the quality, which it doesn't always mean that section is longer. It could just mean it has more relevant entities or giving more details about the entities. It could mean better quality images, providing simpler explanation, these types of things. So first understand what the potential is that the page can rank for. Then look at the competitors, have a plan how you're going to beat them for those important sections in particular. And of course, the regular steps that we all do is look at the competitors' headings, but we're not looking to copy the headings. We just use them as a structure. And we certainly also filter out headings. There will be often things that you actually should not use, headings that competitors use in the wrong way. And then the order of headings is also important to understand what part of this article is the most valuable thing to the user, and prioritize that inside of your article. Put that towards the top, because if it's a topic where people are really concerned about cost, for example, let's say it's something that costs $50,000 and it's hard to afford, then you need to prioritize cost and put it higher in your article, because that's what the users care about, and you want to have valuable content that's easy to digest, that gives the answer in an immediate way, so that users don't need to scroll down after 4,000 words and try, oh, cost is at the very bottom, but that's really what I came here for. And most people won't find it, because that's an interesting thing I realized from doing the heat map analysis. In user experience design, we often use heat maps, and we can see at the top of the website, it's very red. 100% of people see the top of the website. Then it becomes orange, then it becomes kind of light green, and then it becomes blue, very cold at the bottom. So what that means, at the bottom of your articles, 95 to 98% of people never see that answer inside of your FAQs, because most people just scan the first 500 to 800 words. So I would say make sure that your first 800 words are totally on point and extremely good, because when you think about it, that's what matters to generating the user signals. Because if we're thinking about Google getting engagement signals from users, if 95% of people only see your first 1,000 words, then you should also put 95% of your effort on the first 1,000 words. Of course, don't write incorrect things in the last parts, but that's one of the tips that I've realized can really help in simplifying this, because oftentimes my copywriters and editors, they come to me, oh, this article is 4,000 words, it's so hard, we need extra time to edit this and do it in that way. But I've told them, just focus on the most important things that the user would care about based on the user intent research, and then we're off to writing a very good article.
Yeah, amazing stuff. So before moving towards the bit of writing part or the writing methodologies you follow, I would like to add one more thing. Basically, just mentioning, shameless plug, my also video coming on semantic brief. It's like a practical demonstration of how to create a brief, semantic brief, based on semantic SEO methodologies like Core's framework and other frameworks as well. I think semantic brief, or you can say simply the brief you create for a content, you basically focus on macro context and micro context. I mean, which context needs to be addressed in the first place, and which news is like a related search activities of the users, and also the other pages you would like user to visit, like your source context related pages, your monetize conversion focused pages, for example. Okay, so you actually cover a topic in a very declarative and very specific to user search intent, and do not like promote yourself and give internal links too much in the start. I mean, you just at the end, the micro context, when you start like supplementary content in a content brief, you actually create contextual pages, and you prioritize like which section you want users to go over, and definitely this is how approach. But you mentioned, I guess, I mean, the correct way is not just to follow the competitors. I mean, you change the question format based on the queries angle, based on how search engine is, because search engine, most of the time I've seen search engine rewrite. I mean, it can do rewrite queries as well. Like it expand queries, like the seed query. It do expansion. It also generate question format for the seed queries, and then test question formats in the people also ask to see which question is performing more. So what normally people do, they just copy the people also ask, like top 20, top 50 questions. They just put in the same order and they just write. I mean, they do not follow. I mean, the thing is, you actually reinvent the wheel. You generate questions yourself, and to help Google, Google has to definitely Google needs to generate question format, questions variation for your seed query. What about if you do that already on your page? So Google will also match the question, and you also give the answer. The question answer pair will be like very good, like you mentioned. What is semantic SEO? You write like semantic SEO is a process. You define entity type is a process, and etc. etc. So it's like about helping machine to give the already organized, or you can say connecting with the search behaviors of user. At the same time, user like your content as well, and at that bottom of the content you do conversion, or maybe put a CTA just after the intro, maybe transform your XYZ with our services or solution, etc. So yeah, that's I guess very, but it's lengthy for me. It's like sometimes more than 10 hours I have to spend to create a semantic brief template. What about you?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The semantic brief template can take a lot of time. I would
Yeah.
say, though, in my view, we always have the chance to improve content later on. So I kind of work by the 80-20 principle, where we want to make sure that we get the search intent and the article quality 80% right. And the last 20% we can get later on once we have the search queries and once the article is published, because keyword research tools also don't show you all of the keywords that you can later rank for once the article is published. So that's my approach to it, to basically get the article out of the door in a very well optimized way, to then later collect the search queries and get a better understanding of the user search intent, and then re-optimize. So that's my approach.
All right. So one last question, Mark. It was a nice conversation, and just wanted to uh, get some. I wanted to ask the last question so audience can get some takeaways from this. Like, what do you suggest someone who's new to this discipline? How someone can learn semantic SEO, and how someone can master it, and what mistakes you see people doing in the start, and how someone can avoid those mistakes?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel I gotten the most learnings in my career of semantic SEO by reading information retrieval books. Actually, I've talked to a lot of people in those circles, and we all agreed that SEO's name should be changed to information retrieval. So have a look for the kind of books that are out there. There's also a really good book on entities, which is actually free. I will send you a link to put that down below after this call. And that would be my recommendation, to look into books that discuss how information retrieval works, including some things around entities, learning to rank models, and also the Search of the Record podcast is a surprisingly good source of some technical information of how Google works. They have clear definition of how their indexing process works, how they discover pages and then put them into search results. And thinking about understanding a search engine's engineering and technical principles first before actually trying the semantic SEO, because many people, they jump to the last part. In my view, semantic SEO is the last part that you should try once you understand all those principles. So without going to kind of school first, it's hard to take the exam, right? So don't try to immediately create your topical map without doing any study of the information retrieval, semantic SEO, and then we also got the lexical semantics. Learning those things first is very helpful, and then trying to applying those things.
Okay, very cool. So I mean, just I see people complicating this concept, and they just like I mean, they're following many resources at the same time. I would also recommend to stick one resource and stick to one concept. Like lexical relation you mentioned is a very important concept in semantic SEO. Just stick to one and make it a roadmap. I've also created a roadmap on the next semantic SEO. If you are new, you can maybe hop to that and read over to that. So I think that would be the go-to strategy. So thank you, Marc, for sharing your insights. And again, I hope the conversation it was like very helpful for the audience, and they maybe get some information out of this, and maybe they can apply. And definitely, guys, if you have any questions regarding this podcast, or if you want this podcast, like second part of this podcast, just let me know. And thank you, Marc, once again. Do you want to say something in that?
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for having me, Muhammad. It was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. And thanks for being so generous with your time and going into all of my questions as well.
All right. Thank you. See you soon. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. See ya. Bye.
Bye.